Hi everybody, this is December 8th, 2025, and it's the day before my 70th birthday. I've been posting these videos as part of my recovery from the trauma of watching my little brother and my last surviving family member in Greater Vancouver be locked away in his group home by the BC New Democratic Party government, David Eby as leader. They locked Paul up on September 12th of 2022 when I discovered that they had created a secret and what I believe is a fraudulent forged power of attorney over Paul, taking away all of his civil rights. It was fraudulent because he was not capable of appointing a representative. They chose my 82-year-old Catholic nun sister, 4,000 kilometers away in Ontario, who'd only met Paul a few times in her life. She left home when he was born. She's 13 years older than him. And they secretly did this using low-level. Paul never had legal advice. They used low-level group home caregivers as witnesses. So I fought this document as long as hard as I could, but when I had complained to the Burnaby RCMP about it, they terminated. I got a letter from the group home's lawyer. The group home is, as I said, paid for and run by the BC taxpayer. I got a letter terminating permanently all my visits with Paul, who was then 64. I've visited with Paul at Well my whole life. I used to have him stay at my apartment 1 weekend a month, and I took him to Newfoundland twice. I've taken him to Seattle. But they terminated my visits, I believe, because they didn't want me to have the opportunity to get a sample of his signature. The signature on the document is an obvious fraud, or to have him tested to show that he is not capable of appointing. You have to have, in order to appoint a representative, you need to have some basic cognitive understanding, which he did not have. He would have never chosen the nun in Ontario. We would have never dreamed of even mentioning her. So they cut off our visits, and then when the nun found out that the Ottawa Oversight Agency for the Burnaby RCMP ordered the Burnaby RCMP to reopen the investigation into the fraudulent and forged representation agreement, she applied to the court. She had 2 law firms working for her around the clock, an Ottawa law firm and a big international Vancouver law firm. I estimate the Catholic Church spent about $1.5 million on this, upholding this fraudulent and forged power of attorney. But when she found out that the Burnaby RCMP had been ordered by Ottawa to reopen the investigation into this fraudulent and forged power of attorney, she applied to the court to have me declared a vexatious litigant. And on November 29th of 2024, 6 months after Paul had died, they had me designated a vexatious litigant. I applied I appealed that decision to the Court of Appeal of British Columbia, and my appeal was dismissed. And I have applied to the Supreme Court of Canada. My designation is a vexatious litigant, which takes away all of my access to Canadian courts. I can't even defend myself after having been a lawyer and had practiced law and defended people from 1991 until 2014. So I applied to the Supreme Court of Canada, and where things stand right now, so I'm just waiting to hear back from the Supreme Court of Canada on whether I'll be granted permission to appeal that decision dismissing my application to set aside my designation as a vexatious litigant. All the documents were filed on September 3rd. There's going to be costs associated. I hope and I have to act on the basis that I'm going to be granted permission to appeal my designation as a vexatious litigant. There's going to be costs associated with that. I had a GoFundMe up and it was running during this litigation, and my goal was $4,000. I raised, of that, people contributed $2,164. So 54%. I was 54% close to my goal, and I'm going to reopen my GoFundMe account, and I ask that you contribute whatever you can. This is a very important case of national importance. If the Catholic Church can have someone declared a vexatious litigant for trying to visit their brother, this is going to have a chilling effect on the people who provide the most free and supportive care to disabled people in Canada, and that's their loved ones. People are going to think twice before they try and represent or visit their loved ones or litigate their access to their loved ones. This is a terrible miscarriage of justice. And if I'm allowed to appeal this designation to the Supreme Court of Canada, I hope to set it aside. And that will encourage people like myself who just want to visit their loved ones, people like my little brother. So tomorrow's my birthday. I'm asking that if you want to make a gift towards my birthday, that you kick in what you can afford to our GoFundMe. As I said, the Catholic Church spent at least $1.5 million and had 2 law firms working around the clock against little old me. So considering that, I think I've held my own against these evildoers, the people that locked up my little brother against his will. And we've got a shot at making this a case of national importance. Thank you so much for all the well wishes. I feel so lucky to have reached my 70th birthday. I was born in Toronto Women's Hospital as my sister before me had died from rhesus factor, RH factor, and I was born dead. And I got 6 blood transfusions from strangers in Toronto that revived me and allowed me to live. And I had a heart attack in 2016 from the stress and trauma of dealing with many issues. And so I just feel so lucky to be on the eve of my 70th birthday. I'm the last surviving family member in Greater Vancouver from a big family. 6 of us moved out here, and we had all our family, our kids, married and had kids, and my mother moved out here, and I'm the only one left. Everyone's died or moved away but me. So I just feel so fortunate to be in this beautiful Greater Vancouver. And again, please contribute to my GoFundMe, which I'm just going to head across the street and reopen the bank account for the GoFundMe account. And so please contribute whatever you can afford. And, like I said, I'm up against people that are willing to spend millions of dollars to take away the rights of the most vulnerable people in Canada. I love you all. Happy birthday to me. Happy 70th birthday to me. Take care, everybody.